Hi everyone, welcome to Lauren's Scrap Lot and episode 5 of Show Me How It's Done. I am just making sure that we are actually live because last week I recorded everything and then I realized that it didn't actually post live to my page, so I ended up posting late. So apologies to those who were watching. So I think we're good. Feel free to comment if you're joining me today. But what I want to do today is to show you an old classic technique using parchment paper, which I know we all have hiding in our kitchens. So parchment paper, wax paper, whatever you have, it will work for this project. So I'm going to show you how to make this adorable card and the background, and then I have a couple other projects to show you along with that design. So if you're wanting to follow along with me, you will need a few supplies. You can grab just a piece of parchment paper, something that's probably at least twice the size of your card because you want space to work on it, okay? Hi Val, thank you for letting me know we're working. And then for my card base, I have chosen to use Coastal Cabana today. So I have cut this at 5.5 by 8.5. And I've put a score mark at 4 1/4. This is going to be the card base, so we can fold that in half using our bone folder to give a nice crisp line. And we're just going to put this aside because we're not going to use it at the moment. But while you've got your trimmer out, we'll cut our other pieces of paper here. So on the inside of my card, I'm putting a piece of Very Vanilla. This is cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. And that is for the inside of my card right here. And then for the outside shadow kind of edge, we're going to use a piece of basic black. So this is the same measurement, 4 inches by 5 1/4, and that will be for the front of the card. But again, we're just going to put that aside and focus on this piece here. So you can choose whether to use watercolor paper or shimmery white cardstock. Just an FYI, this technique does not work really well with just regular white cardstock. You want a paper that will soak up the ink that we're using. So I'm choosing to use watercolor paper because I really love how well it soaks everything in. But the shimmery white cardstock also works really well too, okay? So this piece is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And don't be afraid to just cut a few extras because you may decide to play with some of the leftovers from the project too, okay? So this is the piece I'm going to use for now. And on my parchment paper in front of me, I'm going to set this out, and I love how it likes to just roll. So sometimes I just grab some blocks and I'll just put those on the edges, some random glue, anything, something to stop it from rolling, okay? So from your ink refill collection, you can choose any color for this technique. I have chosen Granny Apple Green and Coastal Cabana, and these are the two colors I'm going to use. Whatever colors you have is fine, and I know some people, they'll often just order Reinkers so that they can do some of these techniques, okay? So we're going to start by just putting some dots on our paper. So I'm going to start with my Coastal Cabana. Just so you know, in this technique, the green likes to take over. So I end up putting more dots of the Coastal Cabana down than I do of my Granny Apple Green. So you want them nicely spaced out and room for us to put some Granny Apple Green in there as well, okay? So lots of dots on there, and then some Granny Apple Green. Again, making sure your dots aren't touching each other. They've got some space because we don't want them mixing yet. And just bear in mind, you'll have to play with this. It's going to look different every single time you do it. I made so many samples with this technique, and I had a different result every time. So another thing that you'll want to grab if you own them, these were our little spritzer bottles. We unfortunately don't sell them anymore. They came in a pack of 2 for $4.50 or something, and they are amazing. So if you're local and you know me, I do have a few extras that you can grab. If you are not local, then just grab any sort of spray bottle. You can pick one up at the dollar store, something that gives you a light mist. It doesn't have to be this size. So we're just going to use our Stampin' Spritzers. And hold your spritzer up from the paper a bit. If you go really close, you're going to kind of shoot color at yourself, which I learned by accident. So go up higher and just start spritzing color. And I'm going to do this 1/2, so hopefully you can see the difference. Do you see how my colors on this right side are starting to kind of bleed out as opposed to the piles that are still pretty sedentary on the left? So keep going all the way across. Make sure these colors have lots of nice water in them. Okay, but they don't need to be bleeding or running into each other. That's where the smooshing comes in on the wax paper. All right. Also, before you do this, maybe have a cloth or some Kleenex handy in case you get some ink kind of spilling over. But that's why we made this paper bigger, and you're working on a surface that, you know, isn't worth $1 billion. So we're going to put our piece of watercolor paper on top. Make sure it goes down in one fell swoop. Okay, so put it, I like to just rest one edge down and lie the rest down. Now I'm going to put my finger in the middle to hold it and just start working out the ink from the center. Okay, you may end up getting some kind of crossing over and peeking out, and that's okay. This is why I told you you're getting inky and we're having fun. Okay, so just gently rub around your paper so that you make sure you're seeing color come out the sides. Okay, and that means it's reached all the edges of your paper. We're going to lift it up, and you can see what I mean when I say that green really takes over. So I'm going to grab a Kleenex and just catch a little bit of this drippage before moving everything out of my way. Okay, so move your parchment paper. You can throw this out, or you can try and do another piece of paper right on it right away. But just set this down, and with a Kleenex, you can start dabbing that excess ink off. It's not going to wreck your pattern because it's already soaked into the watercolor paper. You do have to be a little bit more careful with the shimmery because you will end up moving some of the color around with your Kleenex. But just be careful. If you want this to dry super, super fast, you can grab your heat tool and heat from the bottom so that it will dry. I find the watercolor paper really only needs a couple minutes, so I just set it aside, and this is where I'm going to start prepping the rest of my pieces. However, if you're using shimmery white, you probably will want to grab your heat tool and just gently blow dry this so it dries. So this guy we're going to set aside. Put it under something heavy. If you have a stamp block, that's great. If you have a couple ink pads, that's what I'm going to use, just so it keeps a nice flat form. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. And what we're going to do while you're letting that set is attach the rest of these pieces, and we're going to start making this bright sign here. Okay, so let me get these pieces out of my way. The black I'm going to pop up on the front of my card with dimensionals, and I am using way more dimensionals than I usually do, because when you have a wet piece of anything, so watercolor paper, shimmery cardstock, whatever, it likes to bend, it likes to pull on your card, and it wants to kind of have a nice arch. So I am using so many dimensionals so that this stays nicely attached to the front of my card, hopefully as evenly as possible. Okay, so if you're wondering why I'm going crazy today, I want it secure. So it's a beautiful technique, but it often has a mind of its own. Okay, so put this guy on the front of your card, and then using your seal or your tape, you're going to attach your vanilla piece to the inside. This is just so people have something to write on, or you. I find sometimes with our cardstock colors, it can be quite challenging to read a message, so I like to put something very neutral on the inside of a card to write on. it also gives your card a little bit more weight in the bottom here. All right, so here's my card front. It's pretty. I'm going to just set it aside now and focus on the decor. So what I wanted to highlight for you guys is, I'll show you the bundle. It's fantastic. This Peace and Joy bundle. We're using 2 of the stamps from it. And then the die set that comes complements it, we're using the word bright. So there's also peace and joy in there. And it's a really nice set. Unfortunately, it is on the retiring list that was just posted today, but I think you might be able to get a little deal on it if you shop for it. So that's kind of fun. All right, so the large bubble die, of course, we're gonna run through our Big Boss with the basic black. I'm not gonna do that in front of you guys because my table ends up moving and you get dizzy. So here's my bubble. It's in the black and it looks great. Now for the fun part, your 2 other layers, as you can see, these are really skinny pieces, and it's really easy to get frustrated if you're trying to attach this to a card. You'd literally have to sit there with your fine tip glue and get all these edges, or you can purchase our adhesive sheets, which are fantastic. They come in 6 by 12 inch pieces, and all I do is I take a scrap of a color that I want to use, I cut an adhesive sheet the same size, and then I put it along the whole back of this piece. So you can see I've used this now already for 3 cards, and I have enough room to do the last one. So when you run this through your machine, like so, it will cut out the outline and leave you with a sticker. All of this cardstock now is sticky on the back, and it attaches straight onto your card. So I think I'll start with my green. I did the same thing with the second piece of the word bright, so that bubble kind of word. I ran it through, it turned into a sticker, which is amazing. And then I'm just going to gently lift it off. And you may have to, find, not on this one, it doesn't have any little pieces. On the other one, you'll have to make sure it doesn't have any pieces sticking. So this is all a sticker now. I'm going to put it onto my bubble, like so. So there's bright, looks really cute. And then I'm going to take the detailed one that I told you would be the bane of your existence if you don't use adhesive sheets. And gently, this one, because it's so detailed, you want to really make sure you're just going nice and slow. Pop out those little pieces like this guy. You don't need that from the middle of the letters, but they come out super easy. And if you've got a piece that's sticking, you just stick your finger on it and it'll kind of attach to your finger and come loose. So what I like about the whole piece being a sticker is it doesn't matter if I've touched a little part of it, it's still going to have most of the adhesive attached, okay? So this guy goes right in the middle here. I love this set. We have some really cute word sets coming out in the January catalog as well, and I definitely know my adhesive sheets are going to come in handy for those too. So don't forget there is a little dot for your eye. So if you don't have nails, we have a take your pick tool, which has a little kind of poke on the end, or you can just take a pair of scissors and put this guy on, okay, like so. So don't forget that little dot. And then this piece here is kind of empty, but I could, find another maybe little word or some snowflakes or something and make use of the rest of my sticker here. But that saved me so much time and so much headache. All right, so while we're at it, we're going to do a little bit of stamping here and do the Merry and for our sentiment. So I've taken both the stamps from this Peace and Joy set and just mounted them on a block. And we're going to use, my ink pads that I'm using. So Coastal Cabana Ink, tap, tap, tap. Put that just on a scrap of paper. Hopefully you guys are like me and just keep all your white scraps. Now you can quickly scrub it in between or stamp off really, really well. It's not going to kill you. Just to quickly grab a little bit of, ooh, there we go, Granny Apple Green ink. Okay, so now you've got 2 sets. You could make do with just one, but it's really fun to have both of them. Okay, I made myself really inky. There we go. So there are no dies, unfortunately, for these. So you just take a little pair of snips, and they're nice small cuts. So just leave yourself a little tiny border of white around it. Cut out your sentiments. So I wanted one in the Coastal Cabana and one in the Granny Apple Green. Like so. There we go. All right, and now I really want to pop things up on my card. So on the back of the word bright, I'm just going to put some dimensionals here. Don't take the backs off yet because we're not ready to attach them. But the longer you can let that other piece dry, the better, okay? And then for these guys, the mini dimensionals would fit. Another tip, we have a lot of edging in our piece here. So go ahead, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm out of the camera, aren't I? There we go. Go ahead and cut off some of these edges. And then you can just cut yourself a strip, and that will go along the whole back of your piece, okay? So I like to use some of those edge pieces for jobs like this. Makes this nice and sturdy. There we go. Like so. Okay, so set these guys just aside for the moment. We're going to deal with attaching your watercolor piece of paper. So it's nice and flat and my page is dry. It worked out really nicely that way. So grab a strong adhesive. So double-sided tape or the Seal Plus would work. And you want to do the whole perimeter because like I mentioned, once you wet this paper, it likes to have a mind of its own and kind of bend all over the place. So we're just going to do this whole perimeter with our double-sided tape. Remember, you can also tear it. You don't have to cut it with your scissors. And then for good measure, we're going to just throw a strip in the middle, like so. Okay. Again, your Seal Plus would be just fine though too. Take off all of those outside pieces. And then see which way you want facing up. So I like a little bit of white kind of in the top. And then just put this in the middle here. Okay, and you can already see this is very different than the sample that I had shown you first. This one had a lot more white in it. This one has a lot more color. So I'm going to just take off the backs of my dimensionals now. And get this guy in the bottom. And then I just ended up putting these two on an angle above it. Okay, so super, super fun technique. You can play with any colors you own. And voila! So it's cute like this. Or you can add some champagne rhinestones to it as well. I just used a couple of those. Looks adorable. If you want to be adventuresome and keep going, you can bring in some of the dies from our Pine Woods die set. So I didn't use the stamp at all. I just used the set of dies. And just so you know, that's on sale right now for $34.30 and instead of $49. So you could grab that if you wanted. I just cut out one. This is kind of a an inside of the tree, so you have to cut it out on a piece of paper and then use the outside perimeter die to cut it fully out, and then a solid white in the back. That one you can either put on adhesive sheets, just like we did with our stickers, or just use your Tombow liquid glue on a few points. It's a lot more forgiving because it's a very solid piece as opposed to a huge word, which is very floppity all over the place. So this is a way you can step your card up. If you want even more added, oh, and we added more bling, of course, you can add one of our gold hoop embellishments. Those are in our annual catalog. And you can see I did end up changing the letter colors, if you noticed, throughout the cards. So this one, my addition was the gold hoop and a few more blings. And then if you check, I have 3 different letters. Get you all on the same screen. I tried to zoom my screen in today for you, but we'll see if it's working. So this one I had black bases for all of them. Then I did Granny Apple with the Coastal Cabana with Granny Apple. And this one I did the Coastal Cabana with the pearl shimmery paper, just to make it stand out a bit. So it's less about the green and the blue on this one and more about a white kind of coming out of that card. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions or if you have a technique that you want to see, please let me know. And I hope to see you guys trying this technique on your own. Bye!